United Kingdom. Production, the docks redevelopment. Scenes 1 to end, take 1, roll 1 on Panasonic SDRS7 camcord in SDHC card format. Starting date, January the 6th, 2013. Sound in stereo. Production company ADR Films. Director ADR. Cameraman ADR, that's Adam David Reynolds. Rolling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rolling. A fascinating photograph of 6 huge ships moored in Exmouth Docks is hung on the wall of the main bar in the Beach Hotel. It was taken in 1984 at one of the busiest periods in the dock's history. "I have seen more in there," says the current harbour master Keith Graham. There were bungalows in the left-hand corner when the picture was taken, and once they were demolished there was room for more shipping. He said the dock's heyday was in the early to mid 1980s after Robin Carter took over the business. He had lots of storage at Greendale Barton in Woodbury, and one year, astonishingly, 620 ships came through. Keith said it was a work of art to manoeuvre the vessels in and out. A pilot had to be on them, as we often worked in inches, and on one occasion we did 13 manoeuvres on one tide. There were a few bumps. In 1985, maintenance work by Ray Towler had just repaired the old wooden jetty, and walking away when a vessel made a wrong move at the harbour entrance and hit the jetty with her starboard bow, said Keith. We called to Ray to get back to the jetty as his work was ruined. Sadly, the days of a busy working docks were numbered, and 6 years later the last ship left on New Year's Day 1990. Closure was inevitable, said Keith. The ships got too big, with 3,000 tonners used around the coast. Most of those we took were 1,000 tons, with occasional 2,000 tons. A man who remembers the Halconic days is the boat builder Jeff Holman, who has lived in Camperdown Terrace all his life and was born 2 doors away from his parents' home. "I remember 9 vessels in the docks," he said. "It was Christmas and they didn't want to sail." Jeff skippered the pilot's cutter for 20 years and take pilots out to board the ships to enable them to guide the vessels through the narrow channels of the docks. When I began with the cutter in 1970, about 160 ships a year came in and out. The numbers rose annually to 600 within 10 years. We brought 2 in and took out 2 every day. Jeff said that well over 100 people worked at the docks, ranging from shipping agents and customs officers to pilots, dockers, lorrymen who would transport more than 1,000 tons per day. These were wonderful times. Grain, fertiliser, apples, coal, breeze, gravel, bricks, cement, and regularly each other. There was a great sprint. Jeff, who is 77, has now been a boat builder all his life and retired 15 years ago. I say retired, he smiled, but I repaired a steamboat the other week and built a 12-foot long dinghy a year ago. He comes from a well-known docks family. His father, Walter, built boats in the same workshop that Jeff has today. Jeff has used his grandfather's brother's. George was once killed in an accident at the docks in 1934 when a derrick used for unloading fell on him. Brian Rosewell, another doyen of the docks, was Exmouth's chief pilot for 18 years and had 25-year stint in the lifeboat. He has fond memories of the area and recalls the day during the Second World War when his father, a fisherman, netted a part of a German plane with a machine gun attached and brought the haul back into the docks. We boys all set to have a bit of fun with the gun, but the civil defence moved in and stopped us, he said. Don Burns, an assistant harbour master, was one of the many loved characters around the docks at its peak, and Brian recalls the day he saw him dangling a rope with a granpel in the docks. He said he was trying to find his bike, which he had thrown in the night before in a fit of temper, laughed Brian. A man with a red flag was an integral part of the railways that served Exmouth Docks for 100 years. He would wave down traffic and pedestrians in Camperdown Terrace to allow the steam locos to haul their loaded wagons over the ungated crossing to join the main Exeter line at Exmouth Station. Bert Welford, who worked at the nearby Sharps Timber Yard for 25 years, has fond memories. The track ran alongside the houses now occupied by the cruise line owners Ian Stewart and his family, and it was a wonderful sight to see those locos passing, said Bert. The railway always supplied the flagman, and there was another ungated crossing back up at the track over the road to King George Recreational Ground. The freight trains were restricted to a speed of 4 miles an hour, and at one stage 2 a day were in operation, but they later became less frequent. Bert misses the locos and the atmosphere of the old docks. Now 81 and living in New Street, he tries to make a daily trip to the quay in his motorised wheelchair to chat to some of the old characters who are still involved in fishing and boat building. The docks was a hive of activity in my day, Bert recalls, and timber and coal was a big business. For years all Exmouth coal came by sea, and in the 1930s steel gantries were erected on the North Quay with 2 haulage grabs which allowed 2 colliers to be unloaded together. Today, Clipper Wharf and Sailmakers Court properties stand on the site. Bert said timber would come by rail from all parts of Britain together with supplies by sea from all around the world. He said the man on Sharp's big circular saw, Harry Gooding, was a great character who was very skillful at his work. Sharp's yard had been opened in 1883 and nearby Wilson's yard followed 10 years later. Herring fishing was prolific in the 1800s, and special trains took catches of often 50 and 60 tons to London, but this market ceased soon after the First World War. In latter years, cargoes included grain, cement, starch, asbesto, glass used for banknotes, animal feed, fertiliser, wood pulp, French apples for the Whiteway cider press near Exeter in Wimpole. The coal gantries were demolished in the late 60s and replaced with another landmark, the huge grain silos. The construction of the docks had been completed in 1868, 7 years after Exmouth had been linked to Exeter by rail, a venture that had taken more than 25 years to get off the ground. Shipping owners had long advocated and construction of a railway to get Exeter, as bigger vessels were unable to negotiate and navigate channels. Cargoes were unloaded into lighter boats and taken to the city. This enabled Exmouth to capitalise on Exeter's manufacturing success, but the coal boom created a need to get supplies to huge Exeter gasworks, and companies were aware of that moving by rail would be cheaper than continuing to use lighter pilot boats and paying cancel fees. Consequently, the case for the railway was overwhelming, but the dilemma was on which side of the Ex it should run. Supporters of the line on the Exmouth side and Lympstone and Topsham would provide more business than villages of Starcross and Exminster, but equally determined rival lobby said the line would be cheaper to construct. As the dispute raged, Exeter Corporation thwarted both groups by extending its canal to turf in 1825 to speed up construction. By then, supporters of a track on the Exmouth side had won the battle, and the first sod was turned on to the site of Exmouth Station on 27th of November 1856, the line being opened on the 1st of May 1861, 2 years later. A parliamentarian bill was put forward to authorise the Exmouth Pier Company to construct a dock and railway in December of that year. A group of the project backers successfully enlisted the support of Mr. Archibald Scott, the general manager of the LSWR. An Act of Parliament on 29th of July 1864 gave the go-ahead and allowed the Docks Company to raise £60,000 by public subscription. Building commenced in 1865 and took 3 years to complete. The docks was created by converting a natural indeed of shore known as Shelley Pit, and the railway ran from the jetty to Exmouth Goods Yard to link with the Exeter line, although some years later it was terminated near the Beach Pub. The Docks Railway closed in 1967 and lorries took on the work. Jean Harris's family owned a chalet bungalow at the docks for 55 years